Speaking of the Fed, I've heard this from several investors. It's a prevalent view amongst a lot of people in the gold and silver space that the Fed has been bluffing. In the last meeting, they indicated rate hikes, 3 to be exact. They're not actually going to do it. That's just political posturing. And the reason is the insurmountable level of debt that the nation has, $30 trillion close to, that really cannot be, you can't raise interest rates on that. It would be unaffordable for the Treasury. What's your view?
Well, the Fed's talking about maybe 50 to 75 basis point increase in interest rates. And that is not catastrophic in terms of debt servicing for the U.S. government. It may be more catastrophic for corporations and individuals, because if the Fed starts raising its Fed funds rate and its benchmark rates, you could see consumer rates and corporate interest rates go a lot higher, faster. And it could put a bigger squeeze on corporations and individuals. But, I think the Fed actually has more wiggle room than some of the gold and silver commentators give it credit for. And I do think that you could have a 50 to 75 basis point increase in the Fed funds rate and in treasuries without having a major negative impact on the debt servicing issue. Obviously, the debt servicing issue is problematic, and they have to pay attention to it. But there is scope for higher rates before you really start having major problems, I think.
Well, has the government budgeted for this higher debt servicing cost? I mean, how are they going to finance it? With higher taxes, with more debt, with MMT? What's the plan here, Jeff?
Well, that's the problem. And that goes back to the fiscal policy issue. It's not the monetary policy, it's the fiscal policy.
Yes.
And the fiscal policy is completely kaput. I mean, you have such disorganization and disagreement within the Republican Party, within the Democratic Party, and between the two parties. You don't really have a functional group. And so if you think about, there's an old Soviet era joke that a Soviet child, a Russian child, is asking his father, why do the U.S. have elections every 4 years and the Soviets have 5-year plans? And the president says, this is another example of the superior mind of the Soviet people. We remember their promises 5 years. They remember them 4. But if you look at fiscal policy.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
These guys are going like month to month. They're not, there's nobody with a 5-year plan in the U.S. government, at least at the top level. The lower level people at the Fed, at the Treasury, and other people, they're looking at this from a long-term perspective and they're understanding the issues. But when you get to the top level policymakers, both within the administration and within Congress, these guys, at the most, they're looking out 12 months. So there's no 5-year plan there, and there's no vision as to how you get out of this.
So what you're saying is that the White House could take a page out of Xi Jinping's book.
I don't know if that's wise, but yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of management skill would be greatly appreciated on the part of the U.S. government.
Well, that aside, what is that going to do? What is higher interest rates going to do for, let's start with the stock markets first.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first effect of increase in interest rates is that the stock market tends to weaken because you have a lot of...
But we've already, so here's my question, Jeff, is that the market has already... Have they already priced that in? Have investors already foreseen 3 rate hikes? Suppose they do raise interest rates by 75 basis points. I suspect nothing would happen because everything's been already predetermined or premeditated.
There's a portion of the equity market and the investment community that has priced that into their models. But there's a larger portion of dollars invested in equity markets that is valuation model driven. And they may anticipate increases in interest rates, but they will not necessarily lighten up their stock portfolio until the actual event. So when you see a 25 basis point increase in interest rates, then you would have an immediate, stocks have to be that much lower to be competitive with interest rates. But after that, then you have it kick back up because you have other people saying, okay, we already knew this was coming.
would you characterize 2022 as being more of a risk on, so basically a continuation of last year, a risk on environment, or more of a risk off environment, given where monetary policy is headed?
I'm not quite sure what risk on, risk off means.
Risk on being like, where we're putting more money into the risk assets like stocks and cryptocurrencies, perhaps. Risk off being we're taking risk off the table, putting that into safe haven assets, whatever you might characterize safe haven assets to be.
I know what the concept is, but I say, if you think that stocks are risk on, look at the stock market. Look at the stock market since 2010. That's not a particularly risky thing. It's had much lower volatility for most of the last 11, 12 years than, say, gold and silver.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race. You're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Marco Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Marco Stan.